Oh, this is gonna be messy. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that whole situation in just a second here. Hey folks, it's Ray at DCRainmaker.com here, and today with a Tacx tablet handlebar holder thingamajig. It's really pretty straightforward. You got this doohickey, and you take your tablet, iPad, wherever it may be, and you plop it inside of it, slap it on your handlebars of your bike, and now you've got like a self-contained indoor training station. Now, of course, many of you, including myself, may have big screen TVs and all that kind of goodness for your indoor training setup, but in some cases, also including myself, I don't necessarily have a lot of space for all that. So here in the DCR cave, I've got tons of space and TVs and all the goodness, but at home, I have very little space. I'm usually like in a sketchy part of like a shed sort of thing, or in the baby's room and when they're not in there, so I don't have a lot of space. I just got to all be self-contained onto the bike itself. And so for this, I've actually been using this for years. In fact, this is my original one from like 5 or 3. I have no idea how many years ago, at least 3 years ago, because I lost the parts to show you when I moved from Paris here to Amsterdam. So yesterday I went out and I bought a box, the new one, just so I could show you all the parts you're supposed to have in it, because I'm missing a few of those by now, but it still works just fine. Speaking of which, price-wise, this is 39 bucks or 39 euros, so it's pretty reasonable in the grand scheme of indoor training equipment. I think it's probably one of the cheapest indoor trainer things I've ever tested, actually. So we'll just go into what's inside of it. So you got your box here. On top is the tablet holder piece, and then down below here, below deck, is the handlebar piece. This goes on your handlebar using this spring-loaded thing right here. You can kind of see it bend in and out. There you go, like that. And then we got a baggie of parts right here, and then we got some paper junk that you're probably not going to read. Speaking of things that we're not going to read, this part right here, indoor use only. Just mentioning it. Also, by the way, on the side of the thing, the only thing you actually may want to know is the tablet sizes it supports. So you got a length, height, and a depth right there of your tablet. So a length of 182 through 267 millimeters, a height of 112 through 197 millimeters, and a depth of 13 millimeters. You can measure your tablet or just look online for your tablet to figure out if it will fit. In my case, I've mostly just got an iPad, so that's what I've been using all these years. So let's put this together really quick here. These are the instructions. Again, we don't really need these too much, but we'll just put them there for the fun of it. And then we got some other like warranty stuff that I'm pretty sure says that not to use it outside. So there we go. We got the parts, and here we go. So tablet piece, handlebar piece. What these are is a whole bunch of little clasps that fit inside right there that we use to go ahead and figure out depending on which handlebar setup we have. You can use that on mountain bike handlebars, road bike handlebars, any round bike handlebars. Where it doesn't work is on triathlon bikes or aero handlebars, anything where you've got some sort of like non-round surface. Not going to work too well there. You can kind of like set it there or do something weird, but it doesn't work very well. So then we've got these little pieces right here. These go ahead and just act as a little bit softer like material, just barely, to be able to give a little more grip on it inside. We've got a screw and a bolt sort of thing down the bottom. We have this little clasp that goes ahead and it just pulls it all together. So super easy. What we do right here is we'll go ahead and take these top pieces there and we'll put them up here. There we go. 1, 2. And then on the bottom ones, it's a little bit easier if you undo this piece right there. Just gives you a little more space to kind of put them in. So then we have this one here, 3, pop it in, there we go, and 4, there we go, just like that. Next, we're going to take this piece right here and attach it to this piece right there. You're just going to slide it in until it pops in place, perfect. And then you go ahead and put your bolt in right on the side, boom, bolt in, spinny thing on this side. And again, this is why you want to be able to pull this out so you can put this in nice and tight. And then you've got this piece down here, which we'll put on the bike. What happens then is we'll go ahead and open these up, and we can put our tablet however we'd like inside of this, tighten it up like this. And on the bottom here, you can see these little screw pieces that tighten up nice and snug right there, just to both lock the placement in left and right, as well as up top here to pull it in nice and tight on top. And again, these expand in and out to the lengths and widths that I showed you earlier. At this point, you're ready to go. You can adjust the up and down pitch of this by just using this little wheel in the back right there, that nut. That way you can adjust it however you'd like. Okay, the last thing you need to do is to go ahead and decide which one of they're dependent on how wide your bars are. You're gonna want to experiment a little bit. Technically, all 3 of these sets work just fine, and I was even able to use it for quite a while without actually putting any of them in there at all. What I found though is on my Canyon bike here, for example, I can't use the rubber inserts with this piece here, the larger two sets of them anyways. I have to use a smaller one. And this acts as like a bit of a lever there to keep everything locked in place. It's not absolutely required, but you just kind of got to play around and figure out what you like the most between those different setups. So in my case, I'm going to put the skinnier ones in. Super easy, just pop them in just like this. Come on, there we go. Plop. Done. Back to the other side. And we're good to go over to the bike. So here we are at the bike. I've got the extra pieces right here just in case we needed to adjust something. I just managed to throw them all over the ground there, so that was great. All you do now is simply take this, you press it up like this, and you pull it in and it snaps on. Now you can see by default what happens is it kind of goes down drooping a little bit like that. And that's because, one, I've got my cable stuck in there, but two, because it doesn't have this piece right here that pulls it up nice and tight. Take the little piece there and you simply slide it in and it makes a little lock. You pull it down and now it pushes from the bottom of the stem, holding the whole bit in place. And it's really straightforward. Also, neat little tip, take your water bottle holder. That actually helps a little bit as well with stabilizing this because it adds a bit more weight to it, at least until you drink your entire water bottle. If you want to adjust pitch though on it, so you want to go ahead and make it a little bit flatter or steeper, whatever the case is, again, just spin that little piece at the bottom there, and you could do something like super flat, Chris Froome style, I guess, or you could do something like this that just makes your neck hurt. I kind of go a little bit more like this, just enough that has a bit there. As far as sweat and stuff like that, no real issues with that, by the way. You know, obviously you can get a little bit of spray on there, a little bit of splatter or whatever the case is, but it's not like getting most of the time drip directly on that. Now, maybe if you're over the top a lot or you're just a really crazy sweater and you didn't buy like a fan or something, then sure, but it hasn't really been an issue. Just wipe it off. Most iPads or tablets these days can handle a little bit of sweat, no problem. Okay, so now we got on the bike. It's pretty self-explanatory. You pedal, it just sits there and it does whatever thing you're doing within an app. I find that it's a little bit tough to like type on it. I certainly wouldn't want to type messages to someone else on it while I'm pedaling just because a little bit of movement there. But in terms of using it with Zwift or TrainerRoad or Full Gas or whatever app you want out there, it's going to work just fine. The next question I get is, what about sprinting? Again, no real issues there. I threw down some sprints with it. I've been doing it for years. It doesn't go anywhere. It's pretty well locked on there. Now it may bounce a little bit, it may sway a little bit, but your whole bike is swaying. So it's actually not as bad as you think. Plus, for the most part, you're not like stand-up sprinting the entire ride, or at least I hope you're not anyways. So it's only when you do that that it might be a little bit, blurry, which is kind of how it feels like in real life a lot of times anyways. Now, the obvious downside is you can't use it with any out front mounts, or if you have anything else on your handlebars that's right next to the stem there, it's not going to work. So like I had a GoPro mount on there, and I had to move off the side a little bit. So that kind of stuff doesn't work as well. In my case, the bike I usually use it on is another bike, an older bike that doesn't have any other mounts, so it's not too much of an issue. Next, no issues on the mountain bike. You can see this right here, fits on that just fine. Just simply adjust the inserts to find the right inserts for your particular handlebar and stem setup. Okay, so as you saw, no problems at all indoors. Everything's working just fine. I've been using it for years that way. And then I started looking at Amazon. I thought it was kind of strange. There's a handful of reviews, that like 1-star reviews, that said the product would like fall off their bike, which I thought was really weird because the clamp here would somehow open up and fall off their bike. Another person said that their toddler could like pull on it and it would fall off their bike. Well, one, why are you letting your toddler pull on your iPad on your bike? Like my kids, that wouldn't happen. And two, my toddlers could not press this clamp open if they tried far enough to get it off the bike. But nonetheless, let's just roll with it. So I thought to myself, why don't I go out on the road and ride with this setup out on the road and demonstrate that it should be just fine, hopefully. But then I realized, you know what? That's not fun enough. Instead, I'm gonna go it off-road. I'm gonna take it out onto the trails, the most I've got around here anyways, and see how it holds up with my road bike. Because I can't be using like the front suspension to make it easier on this thing. I mean, that wouldn't be like Amazon 5-star worthy. So I gotta go road bike, off-road, and just see what happens. Which, by the way, is a good time to mention, if you're finding this video interesting or useful or anything like that, because I may have to go out and buy a new iPad here momentarily, just whack that like button at the bottom there, or consider subscribing, because it will probably help out my iPad repurchasing a little bit down the road. So you think to yourself, you know what, thought I'm about to do something stupid. You're right, should have worn a coat. Ready? Let's roll. Oh, this sucks. Oh crap. Should not have done this on road bike tires. Oh, little bump there. Everything's holding tight though. I think we get back to the, oh, this is gonna be messy. Still good. Just waiting for one of those snaps to do a non-good snappy sort of thing. Oh, that's a biggie. Sprint time. About 600 watts right now. I have grandma and her dog up ahead here though, so gotta watch out. Social distance. Oh, bridge is not good. Hey, but it's like the real bridge planks, none of this Tacx road feel stuff. Okay, so there you go, a complete look at the Tacx tablet holder thingamajig that I've been using for years. As I said, like, it just works. I don't really know what more to say. For 39 bucks, it's great. Sure, I wish there was a way I could use it without front mounts that didn't, you know, get in the way there. It's a small price to pay though, and it is literally a small price to pay relative to almost everything else that we have for indoor training on our bikes. And given that a lot of us are gonna have to spend a lot more time indoors with our bikes over the next few months probably, you may wanna consider picking up something like this for a while, unfortunately. With that, hopefully you found this video interesting or useful. If so, again, go ahead and whack that like button down the bottom there, or subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness, especially a lot more indoor sports technology goodness. Have a good one.